Hello everyone and welcome to this video in our Python tutorial series. In this video we will be talking about basic data types in Python, and we will be creating some variables with different data types stored in them. In this video and next few videos in which we will be covering the basics of Python, we will be using Python CLI, that is Python command line interface. So what actually happens in command line interface is, whenever we write each line of code and move on to writing the next line of code, the previously written line of code will be executed, and then we will be able to write the next line of code. That is, we will be able to see the results of a particular line of code instantly. So for basics we will be using it so we can actually see what's going on in our code. So let's fire our Python CLI. Let's type Python and press enter. Now as you can see, we have installed Python 3.8.5 in our previous video, but when I fire up Python here, it's showing me that Python 2.7.16 is being used. Now if you remember, in our previous video I mentioned that in Mac there is already a pre-installed version of Python, that is Python 2.x, which is pre-installed in it, and we will be using Python 3.x in this series. So I will have to mention that I want to use Python 3 instead of just Python, because if I write Python in Mac, it treats it as Python 2 by default. So just keep in mind that it's only for Mac. For Windows user, whichever Python version that you have installed will be shown up here. So I'll just exit and I'll fire here Python 3 now. So now as you can see, I am accessing Python 3.8.5 CLI. So let's create a variable. So what is a variable? Just like in mathematics, variables are used to store particular values. In Python, it's too easy to create variables as compared to other programming languages where we have to specify the data type of that variable. But in Python, we need not to specify the data type for which the values will be stored in the variable. So let's say I want to create a variable var, and I want to store an integer value in it, 10. If I want to check the value of var here, I'll just type var and press enter. So I got 10 here, which is what I saved earlier in my previous command. So let's create another variable with a string or character values in it. Let's say I want to create var1 and I want to store hello in it. Now if I see the values installed in var1, it's hello. Now let's say I want to create another variable and I want to store any float value, that is decimal points in it. So I'll just have to create another variable, let's say var2, and I can just initialize it with 1.5. And if I check my value of var2, it will be 1.5 because we initialized it. Now let's say I want to create another string variable, that is var3, and I want to assign it as hi, and I want to reassign variable 1 as hi2. Now if you can notice, I have used double inverted commas while declaring variable 3, and I have used hi with single inverted commas only in our va1 variable. Now let's check the values of both va1 and var3. Let's say va1 is hi, that's what we typed here, and let's check the value of var3, we got hi. Now if you can see that the double inverted commas, the double quotes here, are converted into single quotes here. Now why? Because in Python it doesn't matter if we are declaring our string by a single inverted comma or a double inverted comma, because it will be treating both of them as a string. Now why is that useful, or why is that helpful at all? Now let's say I want to write a sentence. Let's say sentence equals to, let's say it's hot today. And if I print my sentence now, why is it important? As you can see, I wanted to use a single inverted comma in my string. So now if I just directly enclose my string within double inverted comma, that will clearly mean that the whole sentence including my single inverted comma is a single string. But if I would have used single inverted comma here, let's say sentence equals to it's hot today, it threw me an error because according to this line of code, according to our syntax of declaring strings, our string has terminated here itself because only it is enclosed in single inverted commas and the rest will not be treated as string. That's why we got an invalid syntax error. We cannot enter anything else after we have terminated our string by putting inverted comma at the end. Now let's say I want to check which data type is being stored in my variable. So there is a function in Python. Now what is a function? A function is any particular snippet of code which is already written, which we can directly call or use by using just the function name. Now the function name here is type. Also keep in mind that function will always be called with parentheses, and whatever is passed in these parentheses are the parameters of the function. Now we have to pass the value for which we want to check the data type as a parameter so that the function can return the data type of that particular variable or particular value. Now let's say I want to check the data type of my var2. The function returned me class float. Class float here means that the variable is storing a value that is of class float. Now if we check what is stored in our variable 2, it's assigned here 1.5, and 1.5, as it has decimal in it, it will be a float. Now let's say I want to check the data type of 100. It should be int. Yes, we got class int as the output. Now let's say I want to check the data type of our variable var1 in which we assigned the string hello. We got class str as output. Now let's say I want to check the data type of integer 100, but this time it will be enclosed in inverted comma. So let's guess what it can be, what the function can return as output. Now I mentioned earlier that whatever is enclosed in single inverted or double inverted comma will be treated as string. So it should return me string, but the value passed is an integer, is a number. So what it should return? Let's check. It returned class str. Why? Why not int? Because a string can also contain numeric values. A string is an alphanumeric which can also contain symbols. A string can contain any character. So it doesn't matter if it's a number or a symbol or a special character. If it's enclosed in inverted commas, it's string. So that's all for this video. We will be covering each data type as different section in our Python tutorial series. Also, we will be performing operations on our data type separately in different videos. So, until next time, thank you.